I wanted to give a little bit of the history of Lojong practice because it has a really wonderful and long history. Sometimes in the Tibetan scriptures, they say that when you explain the history, it keeps us from having so many doubts. So if we know a lot of people, if we understand like a lot of people have practiced in this way and that they were great masters, maybe we're a little bit more willing to do something that seems difficult. But basically in the 10th century, there's a great master named Atisha who's from India. And he heard about another master named Jo Serlingba, who's in present-day Indonesia. At the time, it was called something else, but I can't remember. And so he had to travel to another country over water, in the 10th century. So we can imagine a trip with a lot of hardship. It's not the same as us, going to a Dharma talk or even taking an airplane to go to Asia and see a teacher or something. I mean, he took a boat across the ocean to meet a person who he couldn't contact first. He couldn't ask first. He had to go there just on his devotion and think, this teacher will accept me if I'm persistent. So he got there, and Jo Serlingba, even though maybe a modern audience in the West, we might think, the Lojong teachings are sort of ordinary teachings that anyone can practice, but Jo Serlingba didn't treat them that way. He said, if you want to receive these teachings from me, you have to train with me for 12 years first. So he made it very difficult to receive these teachings. He treated them like secret teachings. And so Atisha stayed there. And when Rinpoche tells the history of this, he says they slept on the same pillow every night. They were together all the time. You can imagine, being with a teacher all the time for 12 years. In a way, it sounds romantic and wonderful, but it's very difficult. I can attest when you're with a teacher all the time, there's nowhere to hide your bad habits. You have to show them all the time. So that can be difficult. And then Atisha brought those teachings back to India and then back to Tibet. And so when he brought them to Tibet, again, Atisha followed in the same style as his Lama, and he didn't give a lot of teachings easily. He was called the Refuge Lama because when he got to Tibet, he only wanted to give people refuge, and he wanted to slow everything down and help people really get grounded in the Dharma. But eventually he taught on Lojong, and then his main student, he had 3 main students, but one of them named Drondonpa, he is the one who's said to be like the founder of the Lojong teachings, the Kadampa lineage. So that's part of the history of like how those teachings got started